Good evening, everyone. We're here at Town Hall, and I will call the joint meeting of the Master Plan Committee and the Planning Board to order for March 2nd, 2023. And I'd ask Jessica to read, call the roll, please.
Marcus Bell.
Here.
David Spina.
Here.
Doug Moglen.
Here.
Randy Brown. David D. DeLory.
Here.
Bert Hanson.
Here on Zoom.
Oh, can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Hold.
back.
We could hear her.
We could hear a second ago.
I can hear you now.
We're just whispering. Fix the job. All right. So we were
Marcus, we can't hear you.
It's very faint.
wow. I need a microphone.
That's better.
Michael McMahon. Scott Lehman. Dory Boyd. Ross Terry. Here. Jess Parker, here. Corey Rowland.
Here.
Marissa Cook Obregon.
Present.
Lucas Karen.
Lucas.
I didn't hear my name, Patrick Jubb. I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. We may have been offline for 2 seconds, but your name was called. All
Okay.
right. With that roll call, I'll note the planning board does not have a quorum, but the master plan advisory committee does have a quorum. And thank you for attending either in person or online. And with that, we'll start out with any public comments or dialogue. No one in the audience here. And what do we have? One online, possibly? Several. Oh, several. Any public comments? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to old business. I'd ask John Goddard, town planner, to give us an update on the future focus group meetings, which I know he's been busily scheduling.
Let's see,
Do
thank you.
you need to use the microphone? I'll pass it to you. Oh, he's got another.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, coming up next week on the 9th, we have 2 focus groups. We'll have our student engagement session over at the regional school. And around they'll be part of their lunchtime break for an hour.
I thought it was the 15th.
Excuse me, that's an old, don't trust me, because this is my phone, this is not good for here.
All right, we're rebooting on
So let's
that.
start one more time. On the 9th, we do have the housing focus group from 6 to 8 p.m. And on the 15th, we have that student engagement session. Those are the 2 that are scheduled, and then we'll be getting down the climate change sustainability focus group.
Good, so that we're coming to the end of the focus groups, which have worked out pretty well. The housing one will hopefully also involve more of the public, I guess you'd say. We're trying to incorporate that as the housing production plan hearing or meeting also, right, Ken? Ken can be of the Pioneer Valley Planning.
Oh, it is.
I gave you the.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting on March 9th from 6 to 8 here, is going to be, let's say, a focus group plus, where the intention is to so meet the requirement for the housing production plan. So, similar to the community meetings in that there will be a small presentation of housing related demographics and some of those particular trends, in addition to some participants. And my colleague Lori Tanner, who is going to be working, who led the economic development focus group, will also be working on the housing production plan, so she will assist me next Thursday.
Excellent. I might just mention here, I saw something on Channel 22 on February 26th. From noon to 1 p.m. they have a program called Focus. And the topic was regional housing crisis. So they interviewed, I think it was 3 people who were involved with housing, one of whom was Catherine Rattay from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So I don't know if anybody wants to take the time to look at that. It was on Channel 22. It's called In Focus, and it was broadcast on February 26th. It was, I guess, had a range of information. There was one gentleman interviewed, I think it's called Wayfinders Organization, very specific on helping people find housing. You know, it's a group that works with helping people find places that they can afford to live in. And then there was Catherine's kind of broader overview of planning, regional housing plan and so forth. So that was good. And then the last person was from Franklin County. It was public housing in Franklin County, but it did get into some of the aspects of how we can provide some public housing, which we have in Southwick, not in great numbers, but we do have some. Okay, next item under old business, again, turn to John. Just a quick update on that district local technical assistance application.
I can do this without a microphone, real quick, no word yet. It was submitted. We'll await feedback.
Good, all right. It went in anyway, and part of that will include, hopefully, if we get the funds, some spatial analysis ability to look at where things should be or could be. And I think it's good way to have some insight, particularly as we get into implementation. Where do we try to locate things? What's the right zoning if we're going to change some things? So forth. All right, new business. There was on the 23rd of February, the focus group on natural resource and open space. Dave McWilliams participated, Marissa Obregon and Bert Hansen, as I recall, were at that focus group. So I don't know if anybody.
Lori.
Sorry, we can't hear again on Zoom.
Wow, you still can't hear.
Oh, now, yeah, okay.
Wow. Anyway, anybody would like to comment on it? Anybody had any thoughts, observations? I know lots of good discussion. Mr. McWilliams would give us a few good words. Is this thing working? No. We need a green light. How about now? No. Hold it. No, the green light was gone. I started talking.
One button,
Yes,
one button on
It's
it.
always when you stand up and they get.
Just want to see you again.
Thank you.
speak up.
So there was a lot of good discussion. I'm not sure what ultimately is going to come out of it. I'd be curious to see what notes they took and how they put together all of the notes. I think there was a lot of consensus as to what the survey said and what a lot of the people in the meeting were agreeing to. It was, again, do I think anything earth shattering came out of it? I don't know. I personally don't think anything earth shattering came out of it, other than just reinforcing the opinions of the people in the room and kind of reinforce what we've seen on the master plan. That's my take. I think it was good discussion, but I think it was just a lot of what we've already had conversations about.
Well, it's good that it's sort of on the now and it would be included in the master plan in that chapter. Any other comments? Sounds like Bert.
I'm thinking about it. I kind of agree with Dave that, wasn't anything earth shattering. It was things that we've heard before. And one dynamic that comes up a lot is the open space and I don't want to say the juxtaposition, if that's the right word, of open space and revenue generating space. And there seems to be this kind of undercurrent of, well, the open space, needs to somehow generate income or generate revenue. I'm not sure where to go with that. I don't know what we do there, but anyway, that does seem to be a theme that comes up in several of these focus groups and the visioning sessions, etc. So just a thought.
Ken Camilla has observation.
Yeah, so as the committee has access to many crude versions of the notes from those focus groups, I do place them in the Google Drive. I just received the open space. I did get to speak to my colleagues regarding that, and I think Bert brings up a great point with regards to how a lot of the various elements kind of overlap, specifically. And this is not unique to Southwick. A lot of the conversation regarding open space and how to balance, I'll say balance, that's usually a safe word. Balance the economic development pressures and comments that come out of the focus group on economic development and specific to your open spaces and your recreation spaces. And we've talked about in our community meetings, the Common Lake, as well as Wally Park, and identifying that there's opportunities there to maybe examine, and it's likely when we start talking about implementation, that the strategies that are identified will show that possibly looking at open space type strategies will suggest that there may be some economic development movement or bringing people to something to enjoy the amenities and enjoy what makes something so special. So I think the focus groups we're confirming surveys, we're confirming the community meeting. You'll see as you continue to review drafts, you'll see a lot of those common themes. The implementation work, which will start earnestly in April, will be specific to identifying those strategies that will help the town and its boards and commissions and committees move forward by implementing strategies that help attain those particular goals that we are starting to talk about, and starting to mold into ideas. So if anything, we'll find that there's a lot of overlap. Housing will also, we'll find that there's overlap with economic development, how you want to cite, how you want to look at development of housing in parts of town where, you know, you're not creating an impact to the natural resources or your open spaces. So there's just overlap that often happens during these conversations. I think you're observing that, you know, live when you talk to your neighbors and the others that are familiar with some of the with open space and the other very focused groups. So
Okay, thanks, Ken. Moving along then to second item under new business are the draft technical papers, reports, and any comments that people may have on them. I have looked at the open space and natural resource element technical paper, and I have several comments that I will send over in some way. Maybe mark it up or just send some notes referring to the sections. I did mention one, I think it was during the focus group, the writer had put down Edgewood Country Club, Shaker Farms Country Club, but hadn't included the ranch, which is another large country club. And I guess some people may say, well, country clubs, golf courses, they're not open space. But they do give you a scenic view. You drive on Sunnyside, it looks pretty nice, looking at the old dairy barns and, you know, the green area. So I think it's reasonable to have it as open space. Anyway, anybody who wants to, I'm sure, is welcome to submit items, comments on the technical paper. So when the final chapters are written, the information is factual and you know, portrays Southwick as we know it.
just an update for the remaining chapters. The land use chapter as well as the facilities and services chapter will be put into the Google Drive on Monday. The housing and transportation chapters will be the last ones, just working with workflow for our transportation staff. And the housing, I think, just needs a little additional love with regards to this engagement that we're planning to do today. So those will be the last two chapters. I think the committee, these particular technical papers, for lack of a better term, are very specific to setting the scene, and from them, staff and the committee will look at the strategies. We'll look at strategies that could be formed from the technical paper. That's typically how it works. When we hear comments from the focus groups, when we hear comments from the community meeting, the survey, there are identified strategies within that. So the idea is, you know, we're utilizing this particular process to form and work with the committee. Right? And then also utilize a wider community implementation workshop to prioritize and really hone down on, you know, what is important with regards to those strategies. As the goal is to get the entirety of the plan done by June 30th, in accordance with the grant, we will ensure that the committee still has opportunity to review this up until the last minute. So, you know, if you don't have time now, you'll see that it's going to be built upon based on the input from the focus groups and from other engagement. But there's going to be opportunity for the next couple of months, just looking at what that product looks like. I'm also going to be drafting the community engagement component which is going to be talking about the process of how we got here and how we're going through this community planning process. So that's another component that's not a technical paper per se, but it's telling the reader, the town, that this has been a continuous process with committee work and community meetings.
All righty, I see Marissa, you have your hand up, you comment?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Doug, as well for seeing my hand raised. I think you may have answered this in part, Ken, but more specifically, for the chapters that are there up on the Google Drive now, we edit them, we send our feedback to you and John. Who exactly reviews it at that stage? Is it just PVPC looking at those comments? And how do those comments get, I guess, collated so that, when those chapters come together for that subsequent review that you just referenced, we get to see who's contributed what, or at least how the ideas have been, presented? Because I know that there have been a few people already from maybe a month ago or so that mentioned that they've edited the documents. They downloaded them as Word docs, put in track changes. So I know a few people on the committee have already done some work, and I'd like to do that over the next couple of weeks. And it seems like there's still time to do that, but just wondering exactly where those comments go, who reviews them, and whether the rest of the committee gets to see them at some point and kind of discuss them. Thank you.
Yes, so I think that maybe we can schedule one of the committee meetings to address outstanding comments. What typically has happened is if there have been multiple people that have provided comments, which there has been for a couple of the chapters, the person that's preparing it, if there are minor grammar text questions, they'll fix that. If there are some questions that probably require some additional thought, that maybe are just comments that need to be captured and maybe brought forward using through track changes and through comments through Merge. That's how we're navigating what the committee will be looking at next. So I think we'll probably want to find time either through the committee meetings to address any large items, but the PVPC staff are taking the comments that have been received to date. Now, and I'll remind folks in an email when those two next chapters are in there, how to continue sending comments. I know the historical and cultural resources writer has received comments. I didn't know she received comments. And she told me that if if you may be reaching out to those particular staff people, I've also told them to, contact me. If you, the focus groups are staffed by the ones that are writing the chapters. So, you met Tori, who wrote the economic development, you met Shannon, who worked on the historical cultural resources section. You met Mimi, who is the open space and natural resources section, and then I'm the journalist. So there's opportunity for the comments, and I think there are, as folks have posed some larger comments that I think can be shared more widely, there's an opportunity to discuss those. I think although this particular section of the meeting could be the time to also discuss if there are items within the drafts that you found problematic. I know Mark has summarized some comments that he had, but I could also foresee this where some of those big questions are addressed.
I'm exhausted and I'm at a meeting for.
I'm thinking maybe the second meeting in April would be a time where we get that on the agenda and, put in some time. Focus on that, focus on the focus groups, not focus on the technical papers. All right, excellent.
Thank you for answering that.
We're all set to move along to some routine business. We have two sets of minutes, February 2nd and the 16th. So if people have had a chance to look at the minutes, there were some minor revisions. But other than that, the meetings were shorter, so the minutes are shorter. I'd entertain motion to approve the February 2nd.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Moglen, seconded by Roz Terry. Roll call vote.
Mark Stokes,
Aye.
Steve Spina,
Aye.
Doug Moglen,
Aye.
David DeLory, Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Aye.
We can't hear you again, sorry.
What? Crazy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Better.
Leah De Maria,
Abstain. We can't hear you again.
Corey Rowland,
Yes.
Okay, with that, roll call. Minutes are approved by your vote and one extension. It's from February 6th.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, we really can't hear you.
Very, very garbled. Can't hear.
And probably the owl. He's the owl. Mr. Moglen made a
Close to the end
motion to it's February 16th. Looking for a second. David Spina seconded. We'll try a roll call again.
hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Good job, John.
Okay, let's go. Mark Stokes,
Aye.
David Spina,
Aye.
Doug Moglen,
Aye.
David DeLory, Bert Hanson,
Abstain.
David Williams,
Aye.
Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Patrick Judd,
Aye.
Alita De Maria,
Aye.
Ross Terry, Jessica Parker, aye. Corey Rowland,
Aye.
Martha Cook Overgon.
Aye.
Okay. That's all right.
Thank you. With that vote, the minutes approved by a majority vote with one abstention. So we have two sets of minutes to be signed. I think we have enough people here in the town hall or sign those. And we'll be all set. Moving along to any committee member comments. I know Norm Cheever wanted some time to go over the appendix material for the community survey. So I'll give Norm floor at this time. I am pleased to announce I like to get back to normal.
Wow.
This is done.
I still have a little bit of auditing to do on pages of the index. I did an audit this morning and found a couple of errors, so before I turn it over to John to be posted, I'll do that. But I'll walk you through it. There's page 1 of 751 pages. You can see we have the list of the questions and the page numbers that are associated with those questions. Okay. That's pretty explanatory. Then we go to the index. In red, I did put the comment in and we did try to correct spelling errors, but we did not make any attempt to correct grammatical errors. And we start going down the list of major and secondary categories. I already went too fast. So as you can see, plenty of on agriculture and farming and associated pages. Plenty on business. Subsets of business. Congamon hit a lot of comments. So if the planning board wants to make some decisions, we probably should read all the business stuff. Followed by the next page, development stuff and their associated pages. Randy Brown, I'm sure, will be very interested in reading all the comments on DPW, as there are plenty of them on several different subjects. Then we have entertainment, with a number of smaller items with their associated pages. I'm sure the fire department, or the chief, would be interested in reading comments on that. All of our historical friends will want to read those. And the same with the housing section. Shortly, I'm going to take you to the master plan and show you what some of the comments there as part of the example of this demo. But I would encourage everybody to look at pages 672, 677. Remember the number 1 response on question 41 was the thank you to us and to the town for putting on us. I found it pretty inspiring to read that section, and I think you'll enjoy it. If you feel a little bit better about all the work you put in. Open spaces there, a lot on parking, parks and rec, I'm sure that will be enjoyed to be read. Police department, I'm sure the chief will want to see the comments that are in there for the police department. Recreation, since we had 3 questions on the survey, that has the most subcategory. And the people will have some fun going through that. School department, Patrick, I'm sure that you and your colleagues will enjoy reading the 2 bullets on school department. Sure, Doug and fellow selectmen and other people in government will enjoy reading the select board and government items that are there. There's quite a few. See, following down, we got taxes, a lot of inputs on taxes. Bunch of things in the town. Services, funding issues, traffic lights, and there's transportation and wildlife. And I passed over conservation. I'm sure Dave's already read some of them. I'm sure he'll enjoy the rest of conservation. What I'd like to do now is switch up to page 641. It'll take me a minute to get to it. 691 minutes. Here's the master's plan responses, some negative, some very positive. I've selected a few for us to read tonight. Okay, we're in red. So here we have our first red item. Thank you for all the work and research that has gone into this. We desperately need a master plan, so we don't have to have the drama, people picketing to be heard. The next one, provide this survey to high school seniors. They will be the ones around for the next 20 years. Down a couple from that. I know politics isn't necessary either. However, this is the future of our town. Let's set a goal. A better place for our children, not a quick profit for the new few, for the few. As you know, these decisions will make or break Southwick as a community. There's a few more. First of all, I thank us, and this survey was difficult in parts because of hard choices to be made for the future of the town, especially the part about affordable housing. This survey really makes you realize that the choices are not easy ones. And below that one, a master plan was done 20 years ago or more. It was set aside by the powers that be. Sadly, I hope this one does better. Too many lovely buildings have been raised and farmland sold. No more box stores, please.
I have a question. The survey was produced by a biased source in Squid.
I didn't know what squid was, so I put the question marks in. I assume it's a slang of some sort that I'm not familiar with.
Lucas?
I think this is some sort of insult to you guys. I'm not. Whoa, us guys, okay, you guys.
Us guys, we're on this committee, buddy.
I looked it up, I couldn't find anything good.
I'm afraid to look now.
Yep.
No.
Okay,
No, worse.
here we are, great idea with survey and website, keep trying to keep people involved. We'll do best to participate, communicate to others. Below that, thank you for doing something like this. It is the best way for people not keen on voicing their opinions to a crowd to make their wishes known. Everyone living here deserves a say in this place of the future. That might have been the last one. Oh, one more. I do not support cannabis growing, cultivating, or retail stores in town. I moved to Southwick because of the right to farm community standards. And do not want to see it destroyed or overdeveloped. I suspect the town management and political powers have a vision of Southwick, and most of these surveys and survey responses will be disregarded, which is a real shame. That's the number one reason why I spent these hundreds of hours to lose the thoughts of the public. And I hope that this gets used. That was my main goal, to make it useful, the powers to make decisions. And I hope we're there. That's my demo.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you.
Well done, Norm. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, and you're all welcome.
Okay, any other committee members who would like to make a comment?
Just briefly, because believe me, I'm just as much in a hurry to get home as everybody else here right now. But I read through a lot of those comments. I'm excited to read the rest of them. And I'm impressed with the amount of engagement from the town that's come through on this. And also that the fact that there's been so much support from the other boards and commissions and everybody that's come out to all these meetings and with the consistent attendance. And even in the face of reading some of that where it seems to be the opposite of what the intention of this master plan was intended to be. I mean, going back to the finance committee hearings 3 years ago, where it was argued to get the funding to support this from the select board and the finance committee. And most importantly, we have the purest form of government in the country where town meeting legislatively voted to fund the master plan by voting through the budget. So the fact, the last master plan, and we've been very vocal about this through the whole process. This plan that we come up with from this and taking all this data in has to be one that is able to be implemented realistically. And you've got all kinds of dynamics at play and all kinds of opinion. When you interview 1,000 people, you're going to get that. It's just important that I know from where I sit, the select board's been supportive of the master plan, the finance committee, the townspeople have all been supportive of this process. That's why it's such a huge burden on us to do a good job here and learn from what came out of the 1960s master plan, what came out of the late 90s master plan. When I moved here, that plan had just about finished and was in the process of being, dealt with at the planning board. And the fact that it wasn't in whole accepted, it's not a loss. The fact that there were major parts of it that were accepted and codified under zoning and codified under other parts of the town bylaw and by practice, it just shows the way that, the evolution of how these things are going to work. So if something from the master plan committee gets set forth, but doesn't end up actually being implemented, and I'm not setting this up to say, oh, this is going to go one way or another. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if not every single wish list item of every single person on this list, because we're all going to disagree on some things, this whole process has been enlightening for everyone on this committee and even in the town. So what the work product that comes out of this as the implementation committee or whatever the successor organization is that takes this forward, it's going to have a huge job to do and a huge responsibility to make sure that they follow through and to take the small victories and the big victories in stride with the small defeats. So that's all I really want to say about this, because I was reading through some of the, sometimes when you read the feedback and the commentary and you want to get dejected about it and go, there's always rain clouds on a sunny day, in a room full of good opinions and whatever, and you just got to take it and let it roll. That's it. Thank you.
All right, I have two items. First, I'll mention that Michael McMahon has been appointed by the planning board and the Economic Development Committee to be a member of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So he's coming on board. Don't know if he's been sworn in yet, but anyway, he will be joining us in future meetings. And the last item is at the planning board meeting last week, I did mention that we were inviting the entire planning board to come on May 4th for a briefing by Ken and whoever else he brings along as staff as to where we are on the master plan and some insights into the process and finishing it off, because it will be up to the planning board to review it and take action on it. And so I wanted to invite them for May 4th. Hopefully people put it in their electronic calendars or whatever, but we will invite them or remind them, right, John, of the, that's a regular meeting date for us. So it'll become our meeting. Actually, it's a joint meeting.
Our meeting.
So they'll be here. We'll have a quorum of both committees.
Yeah. And Marcus, this is Bert. I'm talking to myself here too. We probably can't expect that meeting to only be an hour.
Maybe not.
Aim high.
An hour and 15 minutes possible. I'm
I'll
optimistic.
take the over.
I suggest pizzas.
All right, whoa, maybe scrambled eggs for breakfast or something. We'll see, but it's important to engage all of those folks as we're coming down to the finish line, so to speak. And anyway,
That's all we have, I have. Anybody else have anything for the cause?
Seeing none, motion to adjourn, sir.
Okay, Mr. Bowman made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? David D. Delory, seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
See you on March 16th.